Good morning. We will pay attention to debtors and creditors control accounts with the reconciliation or with the debtors list and creditors list today. I just want to explain the basic way that you must think out these transactions. So if we, for instance, have a debtors journal, we will have a column for sales and a column for cost of sales. The same will apply to all the other journals. So say for instance, I sell goods to Nell for 1,000 and the cost of sales is 500. And I sell to Stain for 2,000 and the cost of sales is 1,000. Okay, then at the end of the month, I must add this. And I add up and I say this is 4,000 and this one is 1,500. So what do I do when I post from the journal? I go to my debtors ledger and I say I have to open an account for each one of my debtors. So if I have 100 debtors, people who buy from me, they owe money to me, I will open an account for all of them. And all the individual transactions with that debtor will be recorded in their individual account. So I will say that Nell owes us 1,000 rand for sales and Stain owes us 2,000 rand for sales. Then when they return goods or they pay money, we will record in their account any transactions that the business will have with these debtors. If I post to my general ledger, in the general ledger we have the double entry system. So it means I will have a sales account and I will have a debtors control account. And I will take the total to my sales 4,000 and I will take a 4,000 to the debit side of my debtors control to indicate that this is the total sales for the month. Then I compare a debtors list at the end of the month. The list is all the names of my 100 customers that I will write down and add up what is the total amount that all these people owe me at the end of the month. So if I've written down all 100 of them, I will add up the totals and I will see what is the total outstanding amount. If I look at these two figures now, it means that it indicates to me that there's a mistake somewhere, because the debtors list is 3,000, the debtors control is 4,000, and they should be the same because I'm transferring the individual entries to my debtors. The debtors list is a balance of all my debtors, and I debit my debtors control, that is the total of the debtors control column in all the journals. So it means now I have to go and look where was the mistake. And if I start with the journal, I see that I made a mistake here. So this amount should have been 3,000 rand. There was no mistake in the debtors ledger. So it means that I mustn't record anything in my debtors ledger. I will indicate that I will debit my sales and I will credit my debtors control with 1,000. So it means that when you make a mistake in the journal, or you omitted entries in the journal, or you recorded entries in the incorrect journal, you will have to correct it in your general ledger and in your debtors ledger. Because if I make a mistake in the journal, that mistake will be posted to the debtors ledger. The total is going to be incorrect and that will be posted to the debtors control. If I only had a mistake with the total, it means there was no mistake with the debtors ledger, so then the mistake will only be recorded in the debtors control. If they tell you that they made a mistake in the individual account of a debtor, then you will only correct it here. So the first thing that you have to do when you do this reconciliation, read the sentence, determine if the mistake was in the journal. If it was in the journal, it means that I must correct it in both places. If it's only the total, it means it will only be corrected in the control account. And if they tell you it's an individual mistake, it will only be recorded in the debtors ledger. So your first step to do this work is to determine where did I make the mistake. Must I correct it in the general ledger? Must I correct it in the debtors ledger? Or must I correct it in both places? Then secondly, you will go to your debtors control and you will say on which side did this entry appear. Okay, then I determine thirdly, how will I correct this mistake? If I put too much on the debit side, it means that I have to correct it on the credit side. If I put too little on the debit side, I have to correct it on the debit side. So remember that when you do this work, you can't just start writing. You must do it systematically. First determine where I will make the corrections, debtors control, debtors list, or both. Then you go to the mistake and you say, okay, what did I do? On which side of the account was the mistake? How will I correct it? Okay, so if I look at these entries, they give me the balances in the debtors control, the debtors list, the creditors control, and the creditors list. So I've just typed it in for you to save some time. And if we look at the first entry, the total of the creditors column in the cash payments was overcost. Okay, it's a total mistake, so it means I will only correct it in the control account. Okay, so then I go to my control account, I say here I have to correct it. They say it was overcost by 200 in the cash payments. So where did I do the entry? I debited the creditors with the money that I paid. There was too much in this amount, so it means that I must now write 200 on the credit side to cancel the mistake that I made on the debit side. A balance of 198 was omitted from the creditors list, so it means it's just in the creditors list that we must show that the individual accounts must increase with 198. The balance of 75 in Snow's account was recorded twice in the list. So again, this was only a mistake in the list, so I will only record it in my debtors list. And they say the balance of 75, so it means a debtor has a debit balance. It was recorded twice, so I must take it out on the credit side. A receipt issued to Billy for 180 in settlement of account of 200 was recorded in the debtors column in the cash receipts journal as 180. So there was no mistake in the journal. And if there was no mistake in the journal and there's no mistake in the total, it means that this was correctly recorded to the list and the debtors control. But no entry was recorded for the discount. So the difference between the 200 and the 120, 80 is 20 Rand, and I will show that the debtors must then decrease with 20 Rand, and in the individual account I will also show that the person will owe 20 Rand less. The total of the debtors journal was under cost, so it's too little. Now the debtors total is posted to the debtors control. There's no mistake in the debtors journal, so we don't have to correct anything in a debtors list. We must only record it in the debtors control. And debtors journal is when we sell goods and we didn't show enough, so it means that I must indicate that we have to increase the debtors control on the debit side with the 310 that was too little. A credit invoice of 180 issued to John has not been recorded. So it was not recorded at all. That means I have to recorded twice. An invoice is when I sell goods, so I have to show that the debtors owe us 180 more, and the individual debtor will also owe us 180. A credit invoice of 42 for goods purchased from Brown dealers was treated as a credit note. This is for goods purchased, so it means that we are busy with creditors now. It's a credit invoice. An invoice must go on the credit side of my creditors control, and we treat it as a credit note. So it means that we have to do it twice. Okay, so if I do this entry and I show that we purchase goods in the creditors control, if I purchase, I should actually have 42 on the credit side. What did we go and do? We treated this as a credit note. So in the creditors control, we indicated the figure on the debit side. Now this is incorrect. This is what I want. I want to show that the creditors must increase. So I will first have to credit the account with 42 to cancel this original entry. Now I've got a naught balance, but I want 42 on the credit side, so it means I will have to increase it twice with the 42. So if an entry is recorded on the wrong side of account, to correct it, you will always have to correct it double. Okay, so this is an invoice for 42, was treated as a credit note. So in my creditors control, I will show that we owe the creditors 84 Rand more, and because we made a mistake in the journal, it means that I have to record it in both places. A payment of 150 to a debtor P. Peters was recorded in the creditors column in the cash payments journal and was posted accordingly. The amount was correctly posted to the debtors account in the debtors ledger. So the debtors ledger is right. We don't have to do anything there. It must just go to the control accounts. We made a payment to Peters. Now, why will the business pay money to a debtor? If he paid his full account and he returns good, it means that we owe him money, and then we will refund him by paying the 140 back. Or he paid his full account and we allow discount, then we will pay money to him. So it occasionally happens that we will pay money to a debtor for various reasons. So you must read very carefully. So payment of 140, so we had to debit Peters because bank is credited, then the debtor should have been debited, and we recorded in the creditors column, so we posted this entry to the creditors control account. So in the creditors control, we showed the amount in the creditors list, 140, the debtor must be debited with 140, and the creditors must be credited with 140, because we put the 140 on the debit side of the creditors, bank credit, creditors control. This was a mistake, so I have to put it on the credit side. In the debtors control, we didn't show it at all, so it means I must debit it to show that we paid money back to the debtor. An entry for 56 in the creditors journal was posted twice to the creditors personal account. So there was no mistake in the journal, so we don't have to record anything in the control account. When we posted it, we put it twice on the debit side of his personal account. So it means that in the creditors journal, we credit the creditors list. We put it twice there, so we have to debit it to cancel the one entry that we made. A credit invoice of 499 was correctly recorded in the debtors journal. No mistake in the control account, but it was posted as 198 to the person's individual account, so I must just go and correct it in my debtors list. It was an invoice, so it was goods that we sold. The amount was too low, so we have to add another 3 rand. Then we will add our columns to see what is the total amount in each one of these columns. Don't forget to add the totals at the top as well, because they are included in this total at the bottom to show what is the total amount. I take my debtors control account and I see on the debit side the total is 5283. On the credit side it's 20. So it means my debtors control balance will now be 5263. In the debtors list, it's 183 minus the 95, and that will give me 5263. Okay, this amount, you must add that as well. So it is 5358. So we will show that the total of the debtors list is 5358 minus the 95, and I will get the same answer. In the creditors control, there's only amount on the credit side, so the balance is 6318. In the creditors ledger, we have 6374 on the credit side, and there's 56 on the debit side, and that gives me then a total of 6318. So now my totals and my balances are equal, so I know that I corrected all the mistakes. When you do this work, ensure that you do it systematically. Read the instructions. Determine whether you will make whether you made the mistake in the journal. If there's a mistake in the journal, then it means that you will have to correct it in both places, debtors and debtors list. If the total in the journal is wrong but all the entries is correct, you will only correct it in the control account. If everything in the journal is correct but you made a mistake in the individual account, it will only be recorded in the debtors list.